Speedway. My parents told me that I had a little bucket of plastic cars and always went with me to the racetrack, and I had my own racetrack in front of the bleachers down at Dickey Bend in Warren.
Oh my gosh.
But when I was a kid, my parents followed every man. And they went every place every day. And as a result, I got to see races in Toledo, Dayton, Syracuse, all over the place, at Canfield, Ohio. And it was fun. I mean, I grew up surrounded by racing.
That's why we got to come and interview you, Jay. Have Jay talk about Jay.
I was at the very first race at State Line. I was at the very first race here.
There you go.
I was at an early race at Raceway 7, but not the first.
Yeah. So Jay, we're doing a documentary on Dick Barton. Of course, he's the all-time State Line winner with 80 wins. And did you get a sense, Jay, as you've been an observer, of kind of his success that he would? Did you see something early on in him?
Yeah, right from the beginning, Dick was awful good right off the truck. And if you remember, about in 1974, Randy, and I imagine you recall for sure, took a Pinto down to Florida and was on TV in the old modified racing they had on the road course down there. And it seems to me like he blew an engine. I remember his first win in a late model. I remember that very well because I got a picture of him. I was doing photography up there then. And I believe he beat one of the Hoffman boys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dick won the race, and I had the picture. Granny wasn't going to give it to him because he didn't like him.
Really?
At that time, and later on, Franny warmed up to him, but at that time, he just didn't like that Dick was winning too much.
Why was that? Did Dick was he not quite as loyal to the track as?
That's true. He wasn't loyal here. He'd go down to Tri-City on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And he'd, I'm sure you guys know this, that they'd go down to Tri-City, win a feature down there when they were running late models on a weekly basis, then hightail it up here and make it here in time for the late model feature. Well, Franny would run the late model feature first because of that.
No kidding.
Try to lock Dick out.
Can you describe his style? Was
smooth.
Smooth?
Yeah, very smooth. My favorite memory of Dick was, and boy, Franny didn't like this at all. But Rod Malloy started on the pole, and Dick started second row inside. Rod faltered on the start, and something that happens a lot, and nothing unusual at all. But Dick touched him, just barely touched him, and Rod turned around when he got back into the throttle. And so Franny black flagged Dick and sent him to the rear. Dick took the lead on about the 21st lap, I think it was, and won the race. And I was a photographer, and I went up to take a picture, and Dick looked at me, just kind of growled. Never got out of the car, just kind of growled. He just, take the damn picture. He was not happy.
Wow.
Freddie wasn't either. Then there was a night that Dick won the feature out here, and it had rained all night. And that night I made the statement that Franny was more stubborn than God. God was trying to rain us out, and Franny wouldn't let him. Dick won the feature. And they didn't do on-track interviews at that time. But Franny messaged down to Mark and told Mark to apologize to Dick for the track being so bad. And Dick said, tell Franny that it actually was a pretty good track and he ought to water it like that all the time. And so Franny sends back down, you tell him if he thinks he can do a better job, he's welcome to come up here and do it.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a very true story. I remember I was at Pennsboro when he showed up down there with a car with State Line Speedway on the side of it. That Franny was helping him with it. I don't know how Franny was helping him, but he had State Line Speedway written on the side. What about that, Randy? Was Franny actually helping him? Yeah. And what what irritated Franny about Dick, because later on he didn't like him. Maybe just winning too much. But and somebody that wins as much as Dick did, or Bobby Snars did, or in the beginning Tom Dill out here, somebody like that is hard on a promoter because people get tired of seeing the same guy win every. That's the Max out here, and then he plays Max Rose. And Max is one of the smoothest, best drivers I've ever seen in my life. And Dick was too. I'd dearly love to see them together again, racing against each other.
So tell me, give me your perspective. Obviously there was the 80th win, which happened to be on the last race of the season, a point race, last turn. Can you kind of paint a picture of what happened there?
And I do remember thinking about how am I going to put this when he wins, not if, but when he wins.
Right.
And I knew Dick was going to win it. Maybe not that night, but he was so close so many times that and the 200s came earlier in that same year or the year before?
Earlier.
It was earlier? Okay. His overall 200th win was earlier, and you knew Dick was eventually going to break the tie and be the winningest driver of the state line. But Dick, like I said, Dick was smooth. Dick started up front a lot in those days, but even when he had to start out back, like that one time that Franny sent him to the back, he was just all of a sudden there. And he had, I think Randy engineered the matchup with Ron Nielsen for the Ford, and boy, that was a match made in heaven. That was probably the best owner-driver combination I have ever seen.
Speaking of wins, Jay, obviously 80 wins is a huge number at State Line. Nobody's exceeded that. Do you suspect, given the longevity to get 80, that's a mark that might be sort of a Cal Ripken mark?
Might be. The reason for that is very few people run for points anymore. It doesn't happen. Point racing championship, a championship at Erie Speedway doesn't seem to carry the weight that it used to because people travel so much. There's a big super late race in Timbuktu and half your drivers go there and nobody can really build up a huge number of wins because of that. It's in a way it's sad, but in a way it's good because these guys go to more places. And I think a driver that wins all the races in their career at one track is not as good as a driver that goes to 30 tracks and wins at 28 of them. I don't know if I'm saying that quite right, but I have a lot of respect for drivers that can go to a track the first time, see it, and walk off with a win, and I think Dick did that once. Did he do that at Hagerstown? Yeah. And not many drivers can do that.
Yeah.
Dick had the ability to read a track and to be able to drive it. Dick had a crew that was with him for a long time. They didn't change crew members every year. They didn't change crew members every 5 years. Think about it, probably didn't change many crew members over 20 years. Those guys worked as a well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm. Sort of like you, a well-oiled machine, Jay.
I used to be pretty well-oiled.
Yeah, Jay quit drinking years ago.
Yeah.